Welcome back to the Outlaw Ranch. Today I thought I would try to get a start on these top hats that goes on top of these center chunks on this axle. There's a piece that will go here. There's a couple of pieces that go here, one here, and then on that far side, let me take you all over there. There's another piece that goes over onto this cover. And so we end up replacing a few of these bolts here. Whatever bolts that are on here, we're going to pull them off. And we have to get bolts that are at least 3/8 of an inch longer. The goal that I'm going to try and do is to get bolts that are as long as possible to make sure that I have as many threads engaged, because this whole top hat is what's going to keep this axle from rocking. That and those lower joints, the lower heim joints, will go in here somewhere. So they're very important. So grade 8, and as long as I can get them, what I'll do is I will pull one bolt out of each one of these covers and measure it and see if we can't get a bolt, or then we'll measure the hole to make sure that we get a bolt that's as long as possible that will kind of ensure that these are as strong as possible. I thought by looking on YouTube that I would find some information on these top hats, how to assemble them, how they go together and stuff like that. There is not. So as far as I know, this will be kind of the first video that shows how these go together. And you can see like this piece here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can see how that has a kind of a diamond shape as well, just like this. And it actually will go on the axle like this. We want that flat part to meet up with the bottom of this big chunk of steel here. This is actually the very top piece. This little ring here will go right over the top of this cover. And the reason we need that little piece is you can see this actually comes up a little bit. So what we're trying to do is make it so that we have enough real estate for that big flat plate to kind of clear there. Then there are a couple of other pieces here. This piece here will actually go on the other side, on the far side over here. I believe it goes right there. And if we come over here and kind of loosely look, yep, that's where that one's going to go. And then those two smaller pieces, they're going to go on the front and rear over where this, these little pieces here, and they're not very big. And they're actually going to go over these covers here, something like that, both front and rear. The pieces I bought, again, I bought these from Beyond Precise. I think they're out of Oklahoma. That's where I got all of my brackets and everything from. And they are really, really good. But understand, again, that there might be some fitting that you're going to have to do, whether it is, maybe punching out these holes or looking for burrs in there, whatever it is. And, they're cut out on a CNC plasma table. So if you kind of look down that edge, that one actually looks pretty square, but sometimes they are angled. This one here is obviously angled. Not a big deal, because this, and you can see it's angled as well, that's where this big flat plate here is going to weld to. So it's not that they're bad parts, okay? They're not. You just might have to do a little bit of grinding, fitting, filing. So first things first, I'm going to pull a bolt out of each piece. And, these are all 3/8 inch brackets. So every bolt's got to be at least 3/8 of an inch. And honestly, they're probably all going to be at least a 1/2 inch or more. So let's get started on pulling some of those bolts, and then we'll head to our local bolt supply house. All right, y'all, we've pulled the bolts that we needed to pull here. We got one out of this side cover, one out of the top cover, one from here, and I did pull one from this big thick cover over here. It's underneath the handle here, right there. All I did now is just kind of whittle a little stick, and I'm going to put this in each hole. I'll put a little pencil mark on it, and we'll check the depth of these holes and try to make sure that we get the maximum length bolt that we can. So stand by. All right, y'all, so all I did was I just grabbed one of these two sticks here, stuck it in each hole, measured it to the bottom, and then added the thickness of the material. So this one is the one that's the thickest because we have to go through both sets of that. Everything else is just 3/8 inch plate, so you just add 3/8, with the exception of that one, which I think I ended up adding 3/4 of an inch. No big deal. And then to help keep everything separate, what I did was I put the number and then how long the bolt needed to be, and then an example of the bolt so I would know the thread pitch. And I did that for each one. Interestingly, these two bolts here are the same size, same thread pitch, but one of them now has to go through both of these here, and the other one only has to go through this one here. So while the bolts are the same, they are going to end up being different lengths, even though they are the exact same bolt right now. So I have my 4 packages here. I have the length of the bolts written down. So let's go off to our favorite bolt bin. Let's get our bolts and washers and stuff like that and come back. And we'll hopefully try to bolt some of this together. So stand by. All right, y'all. So what I did, you guys saw that I put the amount that I needed and the length of the bolts on each bag here. And then I bought the corresponding bolts that would go with each one. This kind of helps me keep them straight. And hopefully this ends up all being right. Not real sure yet if this is going to go together very well yet. I'm going to have to probably knock off for the night. I've got some other engagements I got to take care of tonight. So we'll pick up with this tomorrow where we start trying to bolt these 4 brackets on top of the axle there and kind of try to get this top plate here set in position for our link mounts. Maybe we can even get a few tacks in there and get things kind of tacked together. But anyways, just wanted you to see how I was trying to keep these bolts separate. So we'll catch y'all tomorrow. All right, y'all, it's the next day. We got their bolts, we have our brackets, we have our axle. Let's see what we can get done. Stand by, we got a little bit of work to do. Okay, I started here with this bracket here, and it seemed to be the most obvious one. I removed all the bolts, they're sitting here on the axle, and I started putting it in, and the bolts were bottoming out, and you can see there's a gap there. So I think I may need to get a couple of more washers because the next bolt size down from this at my local bolt bin there at Tractor Supply, they're a 1/2 inch shorter, which is just not long enough. So I started also on this bracket. This bracket looks pretty good. You can see where this lock washer here isn't quite squashed all the way down. In fact, none of them quite look like they're all the way down. So I may need to get some bolt or some washers, just some flat washers for these bolts as well. Right now I'm working on this little top piece here. The big top hat actually goes on top of that, so we're gonna have to stop on this one for a minute. Let's get these 4 bolts here removed and get that bracket installed and see what it looks like. All right, y'all, as you can see, we got a few of these brackets on. I have this one on, that one we already had going on, this one was on, and I had thought that this was just a spacer ring that would space this big thick plate high enough to clear this. That is obviously not the case, because even if you just take something as simple as a wrench and lay it across there, you can see that that cover definitely sits higher than this ring. So at this point, I think that this cover needs to come off. Then you put this ring on, and then you put that big old 3/8 inch plate on top here, like this. Because even if I just lay it up there, there's no way that's going to fit. Now, if I kind of line up these bolt holes here, you can see it kind of lines up there. And the same thing here, if I kind of put it there, I think it's going to work. I'm not sure that it's going to line up with this front one though. I got some more work to do. I'll remove that top cover, that thin little sheet metal cover there, and see if I can't get this plate to fit more in line with these two side plates here. So stand by, folks. We got some more work to do. All right, y'all. You can see after I removed that plate down there that things are definitely lining up a lot better. This plate will even line up better once I get rid of that gap that you can see there. I think since this plate isn't fitting too well, I don't think the bolts are all that long, because you can see that this one is tight. What I think is happening is that these holes that are drilled in here may not be exactly right as far as the spacing was, you know, on the axle here. So I'm going to remove that plate, and I'm going to hold it up there and kind of eyeball all 4 of those bolts and see if that is the answer. If they're not lining up perfectly, then what I'm going to do is I'll just open up these holes by just the next largest size bit that I have and reattach it. I have the flat washers here for this one, so it shouldn't be a problem getting that to clamp down. So that'll be the next step. But you can see that was definitely what had to happen. That cover had to come off. Now there is a big, chunky gasket in here. I'll have to clean that up as well. But for right now, just knowing that that cover did have to come off is a big relief. So stand by, folks. We got a little bit more work to do, and let's see how much we can get done today. Okay, well, we figured out why that side plate wasn't working. And I didn't notice it at first, but you can see it now. There's like a screw head right here. And that was making it so that that plate was kind of like, walking around on there. The holes are just fine. That plate has to stay because the cover here that we have has a big hole in the middle of it. And that hole doesn't line up with the bolt head there. You can kind of see it would be a lot closer. So if I put that on there, you can see how it just doesn't fit. And if I put it so that that bolt head fits in there, none of the holes in this bracket are going to line up. So what I think I may have to do is put a little grease on the end of that bolt, on the end of that screw head there, and maybe see if I can't line it up with this bracket, and then put like a little divot or something right there so that it will fit around that. The other option would be to maybe try and remove that screw. Maybe I'll try that first. Stand by, we'll try and remove that screw first. Okay, I removed that piece off the side of the axle, and I removed the screw, and it's like it's a fill plug of some sort. And it was just threaded in there, but not all the way. So maybe, and there it stops again. Not sure what that is. I'm going to have to look into it here, guys. Since this is kind of dragging out to be such a long project, I guess we'll stop it here for the day. I got some research to do. I got to get that other bracket on the back side, see how well it lines up. But anyways, you guys, I keep saying thank you to all these new subscribers. I picked up a couple of more. I'm very grateful and proud, to be honest with you, that I'm picking up so many subscribers. And thank you so much to every one of y'all that has subscribed. Thank you all so much for every one of you that has decided to watch this. I've not seen anybody do these top hats on YouTube unless I'm doing the search for the wrong way. So I kind of thought this would be kind of interesting to show how we're doing it. But I'm having to learn right alongside with you guys. So thank you for your patience. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe. All of that stuff really, truly does help more than I can put to words. So thank you so much. And we'll catch y'all on the next one.